some people know me by Laura, or some people know me as Dr. Luna. I'm the founder of Luna y Soul Sanctuary, and the sanctuary was really a vision that that Lisa and Marilyn and I have had and talked about for like probably more than 10 years. And our vision is really to have sanctuaries in all different places, right? All over the world, to be able to have spaces that we can be at and go to for healing, to retreat, to help each other, and that these little spaces that are connected to nature be everywhere, all over the globe.
Oh.
Yeah, and so that's really the vision of this sanctuary. It's right now it's virtual, and we have the dream to have land and to be able to have that space here, but we're already connected to places that have that going. So the energy's there. I think the collective consciousness is there, and just waiting for things to align so that we can continue to create spaces. And in the meantime, we have these virtual spaces that are serving us for now, and I'm excited to hear what we all have to say today. And let's see what else. So I'm my background is Mexican. My family comes from Mexico. I am identifying as Chichimeca. That's where my family's from. Zacatecas, Jalisco, that region in Mexico. So, and the Chichimecas, they moved. They were nomadic, and they moved from North America to South America, and we traded and met with each other. And so I feel connected to a lot of different groups of people, not just one specific tribe. And so that's me. I'm currently in Southern California in what is considered Coahuila land. And I've been living here for a few years. So that's me.
Well, thank you, Laura. Thank you for, Dr. Luna. Thank you for bringing us together, and thank you for acting on this vision that you've had to create this space and these sanctuaries, or these visions that we've all had. It feels it's right on time. So I'm just really grateful that, you're acting on this so that, we all get to experience this. And Louise, it's good to have met you, first time, and welcome to this sister circle. And Marilyn, you're always worth the wait.
Thank you.
Washu demot moket letle kashanadi digum dia Lisa Grayshield, Ida Isa digum dia, my mother, a grandmother, not a great grandmother yet. I'm glad. My oldest grandson is 10, Mr. Ra, who's trying to climb all over the place. So I grew up in Northern Nevada. I'm a Washoe from the Lake Tahoe area. I'm a part of the Washoe tribe of Nevada and California, and we're just a small group of people and that have been there since time immemorial. We're working really hard my father is a president of the Warrior Society for our tribe, and we're working really hard to acquire land back in our homelands, because when the government took the Washoe lands, we were only given small tracts to live on. So we have small colonies. We don't have a reservation like the Navajos have a lot of land base. We don't have any of that because we were not given that in the time that we were coming up. So we're really working toward that space, and that fits right into the vision that is happening all over the world, because we're all connecting with that indigeneity that we have inside of every one of us. And so I'm really grateful to get to be a part of, of this movement that's on the ground right now. And I have 3 daughters, Gabrielle, Adrienne, and Tiva, and 5 grandchildren. I do some independent contract work to keep myself moving, working with health and wellness programs in tribal communities, and also doing some consulting with different organizations to create curriculum and things that are able to be implemented in Indian country, you know, so we're helping to try to make them culturally accessible. So all of my education, I'm a counseling psychologist, I have my PhD, and all my education is kind of lend itself to my ability to be a bridge between the Indian world and the non-Indian world, so that we can, you know, take our role as Native people in facilitating that transformation, you know, because it seems that we've just dealt with so many problems, you know, of alcoholism and drug use and, you know, health issues at a huge level. And so now our tribes are beginning to talk about things like food sovereignty and our indigenous ways of knowing. And we're beginning to recognize that the world needs this information too. So it's important to tap into those spaces. And so it's amazing to get to share like this and from all the places that we come from. So it's good to be here. Thank you, Lauda. And that's all for now.
Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Marilyn Begaye. I am originally from northern New Mexico, and my father was originally from northern Arizona. So we kind of went back and forth while I was growing up. I'm Tsitnajini is my first clan, and Toritchini is my second clan. And my third clan, which are my grandfathers, maternal grandfathers, are Halsoy, the Meadow people. And then my grandfather on my dad's side, they are Kia'ani's Towering House clan. That is how I was taught to introduce myself in a good way. And not sure. I think that I'll go ahead and introduce my family. I have 4 children, and they all became adults and on their own. And I find myself to be alone a lot lately. So, but I keep close to my younger daughter. My so I've been doing that lately, just to help her, help myself, I guess. Help myself, help her. I work here at an isolated reservation, which has its own uniqueness. And being a counseling psychologist, trying to conglomerate or trying to figure out what's going on here, and just learning about their culture, trying not to be too negative, but working on being more positive with people. But I think it goes hand in hand, because traditionally when we talk about healing, we talk about the alpha and omega, or the female and male spirit, Mother Earth, Father Sky. So it all comes together, and it births good things, so that we can become good people, good to other people. But I'm 57 years old and approaching 60, and I've noticed that my identity is changing quite a lot because of being a grandma, and also being a counseling psychologist, and also being a healer, and being in a Western
Corleen, you have a phone call? Corleen, yeah.
education system has it's always been a challenge for me, but lately it's like, when am I going to get my license is one of them. if I want my license, and what is this license for, but it all comes down to who am I and what do I need to do. So always trying to look for that balance between the two worlds. I think that from the beginning, it would have just been good if I just stayed Navajo, not get an education. That's what sometimes I do think about, because uh, I I would not have to substitute myself for something else that is foreign, including language, ways of thinking, and and uh, and the schooling that I got, doing like research, writing, all that. It all went back to boarding school age. When I went to boarding school, we were punished for speaking our own language. I mean, who would do that to a child at kindergarten age? You know, and that's what they did to me on my own reservation. And our tribe allowed that. And just because the federal government wanted us to become what we were not. So it's been an ongoing struggle, and this pain is still there. And I was listening to an elder this morning that got me thinking, and it got me thinking because there's an echo into other elders, including my grandma, about what she used to say about the destruction of our world, and the coming of the end, and the not the coming of an end to end, but the coming of an end to be reborn. We're coming to a level where we're emerging into something different. But that this COVID thing was just the first, and there's going to be others that are coming, more challenges coming. So that was the prophecy, and I've been thinking about that this morning, and been thinking about raising more people that are in touch, people that are willing to learn about uh, reconnecting to the earth, to the universe, and to do the inner and outer healing, you know, because there's a lot of people talking, there's a lot of ways, there's a lot, but if you know who you are and how you settle onto this earth, the way you're made, the way you sound, and you have a special place. I believe that, and that people have to find that special place within themselves, and that there's no other way. And I'm a heavy believer in that. So because it, walking this life between two worlds, it does make you become mentally ill, so to speak. It does make you, anxiety go up. It does make you become depressed, and also knowing the truth, the colonization process, knowing the truth about our past, that's kind of depressing. But sometimes you have to go backwards to go forward even more, and to come out stronger. So anyways, I have a lot to say, but I'm probably just going to keep going, but I'm going to cut myself off right here. Thank you.
Líse ní lenigáin is anam dom, tá mas limnach as era. In English, Louise O'Flanagan. It's an honor being here with such wise elders who speak truth and who honor their word and who seem to see clearly. I, like you, Marilyn, have felt I've been living a duality, and even when I don't feel it, if I'm not conscious of it, it's cellular, it's a part of me, stripped of my language, through the system, stripped of my knowingness, until I delved into that again myself. Stripped of choice, stripped of individuality. You know, I mean, there's so many layers to that duality. And then on the flip side of it, you know, I'll honor, you know, the wisdom that you speak of from grandmother, I think you mentioned, where as a collective we seem to be pushing ourselves so far to the cliff through dysfunctional choices or behaviors, or what we seem to perceive as dysfunctional, that we're all falling off the cliff one by one into self-awareness. And yeah, I guess that was my journey. And I see that happening to a huge amount of people, and there's a joy to that, and then there's also an awareness of extreme pain in that process. So to introduce myself as who I am, I guess I walk with people through having walked with myself. So I like to see myself as somebody who accompanies people home to wherever they're looking to land. And I think inner contentment, regardless of all of the drama in the inner world or in the outer world, you know, seems to be the mission statement. Thank you. So I'm calling in from Ireland. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone, for introducing yourselves, and I appreciate each one of you here. Marilyn, are you trying to change? You're trying to change? Okay. Hold on. So I guess we'll dive into why we're here. And I'm going to let Lisa introduce that. I know I wanted to talk about first, to start us off, in these dialogues that we're going to have once a month on the first Monday of each month at the same time, is true healing happens at a community. So I have a lot of questions that I've been asking about that for myself, and just, you know, and trying to get people to think about that too. Like, one of my first questions is, well, I mean, I have several, but what is a community? How do we know if we're a part of a community? What is our role in community? And I'm trying to stay on the positive side, because when I started really thinking about this, is like I started to think about all the like different experiences that I've had in different communities that have not been healing, that have been the opposite of healing. So, and then I know that for me, this circle of sisterhood has been really powerful for my healing. So I know that, you know, this community that we have created is that space where that has happened for me, you know, where that true healing has really happened, where I feel understood and accepted and respected and honored and heard, felt, you know. So anyway, so that I'll just leave it at that, and I'll pass it over to Lisa so you can introduce more what you were thinking when you wrote this, when you brought this information forward in writing. You're on mute, Lisa.
Okay. Is it possible to share screen?
Yeah. Let me see. Okay, you should be able to.
Okay. So I was just going to share this first definition of healing state. So while Western discourse has failed to recognize Native and Indigenous practices of healing, it has provided us with an array of important information in determining how to most effectively heal in today's modern world. So I mean, a lot of this is preaching to the choir, right? We all know that it is as scientifically appropriate as it is culturally. You know, Indigenous ways of knowing is about reconnection. It's about reconnection to the earth, fire, water, air, basic elementals. You know, some of our most ancient medicines are all based on this way of knowing, this system of knowing that did not require digging corpses up in a grave and chopping the bodies up to figure out how they functioned, because we understood at the very basic core that it's about those fundamental elementals that bring us all together. And so, so hence why we say Mother Earth. So all of this information, I'll read this last paragraph here because it's not mine. You know, it's all of us as Indigenous writers that are beginning to really recognize where true healing happens. So, you know, so I would have to say thank you to so many people in this coming together of knowledge. And this chapter will be included in a text, and I don't even know what the text is, by another one of my colleagues. I need to ask him once it gets published, you know, what text it's in. I don't even know. But, and this is what we had hoped to build on, because, you know, when we're bringing all these constructs, you know, we know very much what it means to be in trauma, especially in communities of color, or the community, you know, looking back through our history, we have not escaped traumatic events. You know, sometimes I think the only difference in the trauma that's experienced in Native American communities and communities of color is that it's still so recent. It's just a continuation of the same paradigm. So what does it look like to be well? That's the question that we were exploring in this. You know, we've discussed, you know, I mean, there's critical information that we need sometimes to understand the communities that we're working with, and how deep that trauma is, and how far it goes, and the outcome of that trauma with respect to, you know, what we're going to be providing as healers, you know, as service providers, as people who are community members. You know, for me, it's my own community. Sometimes the hardest community to work in is with my own people. So these are 7, and we had talked about 9, and some of them are because we know that there are it's so much more. They're just general statements. So what do we include in these general statements? So this is the first one that we're talking about. That's why I wanted to highlight, what did I do? True healing happens at a community level. So while an individual may profess that they are healed of their ailment, they're never truly free as long as there are others with the same challenges. So, you know, I see that in society where people are separating and not feeling responsible, you know, so we all have a responsibility for all the things that are happening in society, and even for our view of them. So once we're speaking about those things, we're involved in the creation of those things in one way or the other. So to be solution oriented, you know, to see the community in it, you know, as a part of all of that. Who is our community? You know, sometimes we ask ourselves these questions. Who is my community? You know, I have my family community, my inner core family. I have, you know, the community of people that I'm biologically connected to. And then I have this tribal community that I'm connected to. And then, you know, we have our cities, our towns, our regions, our states. But, you know, when it comes to, those are just small levels of community, but we're all community. You know, so when we're bringing a positive impact into our community and we're creating an avenue for balance and harmony to take place, then we're moving right along with that beautiful thread. But those things have been interrupted on such a large scale. So healthy communities have numerous community events that focus on wellness, substance-free living, and cultural revitalization. This was specifically written with respect to Native American and tribal communities. You know, when these events and these things are taking place, we know we're working in a positive trajectory. So participation in the events always builds positive relationships and promotes healing. So I love it when I'm involved in any event that is taking place to build this kind of positive thing, because I know that it is adding to the larger vibration of bringing peace across the planet, like mantraing Om Shanti Shanti Shanti, because we're all coming together to help each other feel good and heal. And so tribal communities are working hard to address the dynamics of their programs in order to bridge their indigenous values with that of the Western world. Western training programs would do well to establish a social and community justice stance with respect to supporting these programs. Non-Native allies are vital resources in building these bridges, and when these allies work alongside the people as opposed to coming in as professionals, then much is accomplished. So that's all I wanted to say about what was written on that paper. And, some of the thoughts are, actually, though, it might be a good idea, even though I clicked out of it, to know, because in our dialogue, we might talk about some of the others. So Lauda, can you tell us what the other ones were? Like there was the first one that we had written where healing happens at a community level. So the other dialogues are going to be, what's the next one?
We haven't decided yet.
Oh, okay. Okay, I mean, there's a number of constructs that, were identified, and one of them is the earth is the source of all food and medicine. And when we talk about the earth, we're also going to be talking about, the sky. It's like, and we know scientifically that, what's happening when we omit the sun's energy from our food systems, that we have a breakdown in our physical bodily systems. And that's what we see happening in large scales all over as a result of mass food production and foods, that are genetically modified, et cetera, all of those things. So when we talk about the earth is the source of all food and medicine, and then there is another construct that is, although I just clicked out of this paper, I wish I hadn't, let me pull it back up really quick.
Maybe that's the next natural top. It's so hard to really separate them because they're all interconnected, but just to help others understand the importance of each one.
Yeah, it's like we're only separating them for that understanding, because, to bring it down into our linguistic understanding as well, because we're still speaking one language and it happens to be the colonizer's language. So the water is life. Water is the source of all life. So, we'll talk about that one. And there may be other things. Learning our languages, those ancient languages. I love learning about Sanskrit because it's such an ancient language, with seed sounds, and focusing on the positive. We do need to create where we're going, so the positive aspects of who we are. And we say this because in Indian communities, we are dealing with so much trauma on a continual basis that sometimes, we need to intentionally create those spaces to say, okay, so where are we going now? It's like we understand trauma. I don't think I can say Native people understand it from a really deep core. We even did a research study on it, I think, back at the university years ago when we asked elders what they knew about trauma. And, obviously, it was kind of the only thing genius in that study is that we asked Native elders as opposed to, coming up with our own conclusions. We just asked them and they told us, and we said, oh yeah, that's kind of what all these researchers are coming up with too. So, and then we know that ceremonial practices reconnect us with spirit. So we'll talk about that one. And then social and restorative justice responsibilities. So all of those things, and like you said, they're all interconnected. So true healing happens at a community level, and that's what we're discussing right now. So the thought that I will put out there for all of us as we begin to think about this is, who is our community? What is the community that we're working with? And so, I'll put that out there, but I bought this children's book when I did my yoga training at Mount Madonna. And this children's book said, was this whole story about what's the most important thing, and who's the most important one in the world? Is it the president? Is it the king? Is it who's the most important? And then at the end of the children's book, we found out that the most important person in the world is the person that you're sitting with right now. And the most important thing that you're doing in the world is what's happening right now. And so it was just, children's lesson on bringing ourselves back into the present moment. So community for me is, like right now, you four ladies are, you're my community, my sisters. And I want to say one last thing is that I so appreciate vision, Lauda, that you had, and Marilyn, that you also confirmed. And then when I stepped out of the seven sacred sisters, when I stepped out into the stars after that night, you know, and I thought about that, and I put my offering and my prayers out, and I saw those seven sisters. I saw the three and the one at the tip, you know, that we're always reaching out. You know, we have that seven, but we're always reaching out, you know, to that next group, knowing that we're interconnected and that we're bringing that love through all those channels. And I also love the idea of the community of healers. You know, there are community of healers that have popped up everywhere, and we're a part of so many different things. But now we get to come together in this forum and support each other, share our knowledge, our information, respect each other as equals in the work that we're doing, and honor each other. So community is, you know, it's always recognizing that I have an impact when I walk into a room, whether it's my family or somebody, that there's going to be a change of energy just for being present in that room, or even thinking about it. So I want to think about things in a good way. I want to walk into that room with my best smile and where I'm feeling good. So it's absolutely critical that I take care of myself, because I'm the tool. I'm the one that's going to grab up my grandsons and kiss them all up on the neck, or help my daughters do the dishes, or you know, review the tribal health and wellness program to see that it's actually having an impact on the tribe and help. You know, I mean, I'm the one, I'm doing these things. So I want to be sharp and I want to feel good. So that knowing that I have an impact on every space that I occupy really drives it home to make me want to, you know, go move into that inner core. So it's critical in this community building and understanding that our healing is directly, you know, it directly impacts those communities that we're a part of. And then, you know, when I had on a medicine journey that I was deep into my meditation, and that's what, you know, that's what the earth, the mother told me, expressed to me, is that you take care of yourself. And as you do that, as you heal, as I cry, as I pray, as I remember all these things that have happened, and I heal that inner side, you know, and I find love and compassion instead of anger and frustration. And when I find that love and compassion, you know, that I'm able to move in that direction, that my people are also being released of the vibrations that hold us in trauma and in those trauma patterns. So, so I'll just say that much about, you know, that those thoughts on community. There seems like there's going to be a lot to say about that. True healing happens at a community level, but it is not separate from individual healing. It's actually very much connected. So.
Yeah, I'd fully agree with that. And I think in my experience of circle work here, healing is hugely optimized through the collective circle. Like, you can heal all you want on your own, but through the collective circle, it has something about it being seen, being fully sacredly held through the mirror of so many people, which in that moment is community. Yeah, there is a profound healing through that. And for me, like this, there's so many different layers to perception of community. For me, the layer of feeling like I add value. So I guess breaking that down is feeling seen, and feeling seen as I perceive myself, not seen through the lens of your judgment or your assumption, but really feeling wholly seen and accepted. And that there is the language that's used in community, you know. And language is dangerous. I mean, it's beautiful, but what we as humans have done to it, I mean, it's laughable, really, what words we use to describe different things, which can cause huge dysfunction and cracks in community, down to the simplicity of incoherence around the use of one word, the use of words. You know, what I'm saying and what you're perceiving me say are often completely different, which can fracture community. just to elaborate on that for a tiny bit, is what I'm noticing here and what you talked to, Lisa, is a huge amount of pop-ups globally. And in Ireland, it is huge. So people are choosing to create their own duality, creating a system that works for them, creating their own reality. So living off the land. Mehel has come in tenfold here, where small little tiny pockets of rural Ireland, you know, everybody in Ireland has gone to the big cities for the money. So, you know, rural Ireland is dying and has been dying a slow death for a long time now. But what we're seeing since COVID kicked in, the grace of COVID, I'll call it, is community coming together. Little pockets of small tribes coming together, and every Saturday they'll go to each other's houses, and the groups are expanding, and they're helping with whatever needs to be done, painting a wall, working the land, doing some weeding, planting some trees, somebody that has medicine experience or somebody that has physio experience. Everybody's sharing each other's value add. And it could be down to somebody being a good communicator, somebody being a good listener, somebody working well with kids, and everybody's value add outside of this mainstream understanding of you have a piece of paper, so you're of value. Really, you know, so here I'm just noticing that a community is beginning to organically expand, and this reliance on this perception of community through big city smoke is diluting, and we're expanding in small pockets of community to the point that leaning on this industrial concrete jungle for sustainability is becoming less and less. The more we expand, and we're noticing GPs are stepping out of mainstream community to local community, you know, and people that are highly educated in these small communities are spending a little bit more time in their small community as opposed to in the big city community. And it seems, you know, we're having a lot of concerts in local sitting rooms, and they're rotating these concerts. So somebody's a singer, they'll sing, like your daughter Lisa that does all these beautiful crafts. They're sharing all of these fantastic sharings in the comfort of our own sitting rooms, or by a bonfire and under the stars if it's a clear night. So organically, it seems, through the letdown of society's offerings, through the portal of what this industrial revolution has created, it seems we're organically creating what community, breaking down what is community ourselves. You know, there's 3 pubs in a small town. Different, you know, this pub will have quiz night, this pub will have singer-songwriter night, this pub will have a bacon and talk night, or a women's night, or a men's night. And you know, even this indigenous circle has really kicked off here, to the point that women are having women's circles, and then on the outer circle there's the men, and the men aren't sharing. They're just in a space of listening. So the women are talking about all their woes and all of their needs and expectations, and the men are in the outside just holding space. And then there's role reversal of that. The men are in the center and the women are on the outside. And then there's an honoring. There's an honoring of the women, there's an honoring of the men. We're starting to do that with our teenagers as well. And just slowing everything down instead of this complete disconnection of awareness of self, or what am I supposed to be? What am I supposed to be to make you happy? You know, like just stripping it all back, through circle and through basic community. What do we need to survive? Mental health and, you know, our physical needs. Thank you.
Thank you for talking about how you felt about your the way you feel about how community is, and I'm learning a lot just by listening to you two. So, can you hear me okay?
No,
No?
I can't hear you. There's a real hiss on the line there. Like it's like there's a cable error or something.
Oh, can you hear me now? Right now?
It's better, but yeah, I hear the hiss.
The hiss?
Yeah, there's like a background computer noise, or I'm not sure what it is.
Yeah. If you guys can like mute yourselves, maybe that's better.
Okay.
Okay, yeah, okay.
Yeah, mute yourself. Yeah. So, thank you for sharing how you felt about healing in the community. I feel that what you're saying about how Western society has torn families apart, like in our case, that's so true. Families, way back then, when I was young, families were a big thing. They would stay together and help each other out, and usually it was the older male's responsibility to bring in, food for the family, or women out in the field gathering corn or whatnot, out in the field, whatever they grew, that, or weaving, or just taking care of the kids. Kids were taken care of by aunts, uncles, and whoever's around, grandparents. So everybody helped each other out. The main focus was to work together. And when I grew up, I've never heard people use their first names to address each other. It's always like sister, or auntie, or grandma. They're always addressed in relation. I think that came, from our creator, that the clan system, to show us that we are all related, and that we need to focus on that. Even down to the smallest little bugs, like the beetles. They're supposed to bring. It's a sign of rain. When they're out there, that means that the rain's coming, or it just came. But that was a sign of moisture in the air. So I was telling my daughter the other day. She was watching a chimpanzee, how it was healing another chimpanzee with the ant, because the little chimpanzee had a cut or something, and the older chimpanzee put ants on it. And then I told her, I text back and I said, in our stories, it was said that the bears were the ones that gave us the medicine. The medicine, the bears showed us how to utilize the medicine that they used, so that we always considered them our brothers. We always were kin to them. So, and there's like, if there's like a need where someone got hurt, we use the bear medicine, if it's like life or death. And there's a song that I use, and the only time I use it is when a person is really sick. That's when I use that song. But that's the only time I use a song. But is when that bear medicine is needed. But it's like the community, half the strength that we had was based on that community, that structure of kinship, the relationships, and everybody had their own roles within these communities, and everybody knew what their roles were, and that and we all worked together. That is gone. Sorry to say that, but it's gone. It's gone in my family. It's gone in the family next over, and it's like it's very, very rare to see that community set up. But somehow, they still do get together maybe once a year. Because of work and school, everybody's scattered, and so they try to balance that way of life. Not as frequently as before, but maybe once a year or twice a year. I know when my grandma was still alive on my dad's side, we used to have like family gatherings of all the family on my father's side, and we have a really big family, and we used to gather on either Mother's Day or New Year's, but that's been missing. Don't think we had any gatherings maybe for 10 years now, and I saw my cousins at a flea market 2 weeks ago, and it just didn't seem it was so different. It was so different because I addressed them because been living out there in white world. I addressed them the way I would address how I was addressed, like I would say Navajo, that's my little sisters, and we all hug each other, and I felt my aunts and uncles' spirit when I was hugging them, but it just seemed like there was there's a bad disconnect there, and I wish it wasn't that way, and that I know that maybe there could be multiple reasons why it's not like that, but it was just painful to see there was a really big gap and a disconnect. Maybe that's what we come up on as a nation, that's where we're at, and it's sad. It's sad, and it's painful to see, to feel that. Not really sure what else to share, but I know that if you're in I think that if you're in a position where you're helping people, that's one of the things that bothers people, is the fact that they have no connections with people, and especially within their own families, and that sometimes it's healthy to stay away from families. Sometimes it's not, but we can like push to make a family, to come together, but there's just so much trauma that it's hard to do. Maybe the hope lies within the next generation, that the kids that are just now growing up, there's where the hope is. That's what I think. That's all I have to share. Thank you.
Maybe we can just pause for a minute and just feel our bodies. Yeah, so let's just pause and breathe. Take a deep breath. And just notice vibrations, sensations in your body.
As we pause, I'm just drawn to throw out the question, what is connection to each of us?
I'm having a hard time not wanting to take some notes with us talking, but then I don't have the capacity to, because I'm feeling into what we're speaking as well. As we talk about community and the meaning of community, and then the question, what is connection, is, it's very real, because that sense of being connected, is really at the core. And, I have to go back to the thought on what is connection. It means what is, the knowing of our own highest expression, our own inner feeling, our own sense of ourselves. And so I think connection is our being able to be present, which requires us to be present with ourselves, body, mind, soul, and spirit. So I think sometimes in this earth, what we come to do, we came here, we manifested here in these physical bodies so that we could cleanse and purify and experience the beauty of Mother Earth, because that's this Earth star, where we're all here together. We have an opportunity to heal and everything we need. To cleanse our energy and to experience the beauty of this creation, this collective creation of reality. Everything that we have is here already. And, because we've let that one domain of mind get out of control and turn into a cultural construct, instead of utilizing the mind as a tool, that services balance and harmony, to bring a good thing, the thoughts that we think, become wisdom when those thoughts are turned into actions that impact people in a positive way. But, in Western world, we tend to really admire those people who make a lot of money, even at the expense of others. And so, from my way of thinking, the way that I understand it is that if we're out there involved in a lot of things without understanding the impact, or eating foods without understanding where they come from, a lot of times that also breeds disconnection. So there's so many things that pull us away from our knowing of our central selves. And so that's why in Indigenous counseling, we talk about the working domains, the 4 working domains: the body, the mind, the soul, and the spirit. Those are areas that we can address in our lives, that we can examine, and that we can work towards balance. And then the indicators of being well are those other 3 directions, our connection to the star people, our connections to our innermost knowing of who we are, like that knowing. And then our connection to the earth, which includes the thing, the impact of the foods and the substances, things that we're putting in our body, and the air that we're breathing, and all of those things, it's like our connection. And the ultimate is our heart, the state of our heart, in a state of compassion where our spirit is connected. So it doesn't mean we're going to be ultimately happy all the time, but it means we're going to be ultimately connected with compassion and love. And, so to me, connection, to really truly connect outside of ourselves, is synonymous with connecting inside of ourselves. But thank you for that question.
Yeah, I just feel quiet. There's a lot of thoughts running through my head about different experiences, and then the trauma, and really wanting to move out of that state of chaos. And it's challenging sometimes. It's really challenging when there's so much fragmentation, you know, like you talked about, Marilyn. And I think, Louise, we talked about this last week when we talked to the fragmentation, and I think you used the word coherence too. So it's like, and the opposite of that was your question, right? It's like, what is connection? How do we know when we're connected? Because when we've had so many experiences of disconnection in our lives through whatever traumatic experiences we've had, you know, and my family, it's a lot of violence, and that's kind of just the history. It's like reflective of the history of who we are and what colonization did to our people. It's like really destroyed that that community, that unity, the togetherness. It's like, so everybody's, you know, fighting for resources instead of working together to build up together what we all have. That's, you know, so powerful. Like what's happening in your communities, Louise, in Ireland, how this pandemic birthed this opportunity to really connect and say, you know, we already know that the system, you know, that was based, you know, on capitalism and the Industrial Revolution doesn't work for that. You know, it's just more fragmentation. So for us to really step up and decide that we want to create something different and pull together our own hearts and minds to create that, and that is possible, that we can do that. And we need to support each other to do that, though, because we really can't do it alone. You know, even me, like right now, I want to put a garden in my backyard, but like where I live, I rent here, so I'm not super motivated to do that. And like my brother has a space where in the last few years, he's been planting a garden, and it's so much work too, you know, for one person to like, and he created a beautiful garden, and, you know, got fresh vegetables and fruits, and he grew different things. And I got to see my nephew, who's almost going to be 3, when he was, you know, 1 and 6 months, just sitting on the dirt by the vegetables and getting a vegetable from the garden that my brother did. And that's, you know, so beautiful to be able to do that. And so, you know, so I guess I'm thinking in terms of the positive, creating that momentum for us to learn how to work together to do that.
I just want to say, Lauda, that I hear, you know, that heart in the way that you're expressing yourself. You know, it's like I hear that, you know, as an Indigenous person going into the Western system to try to figure out how I can go back and help my people, you know, and then realizing at the end of the structure that I wasn't going to find the solutions in the systems that created the problems, that we really truly did have to go back, but we have lost so much knowledge. I mean, not go back, I don't want to say it in that way, you know, but to regenerate our Indigenous ways of knowing, you know, and come together as community instead of competition or being afraid that you're going to miss out on not get something or whatever, but just kind of coming together around the very basic elementals of life, you know, food and shelter and clean water, you know, those kinds, and to shift our paradigm from the value of things, you know, to the value of life itself, you know, like to be motivated through care and compassion and love, and reaching out to all the communities who don't even know how to eat. You know, recently this beautiful man that you know, I had the honor to spend time with, this healer, this Indigenous healer, you know, it's like as we talked, and he's so wise and he's so smart, and he really helps a lot of people, you know, puts his prayers out there every day in ceremony. People call on him because they're at the end of their ropes and they need, you know, their lives to change, but he doesn't know how to eat right. Because that knowledge and that information was literally stripped from Indian people when they were put on reservations and then provided commodity foods. And Indians always gave thanks. We always give thanks for what Creator has provided. And Creator, you know, so we were hunting and gathering and doing the things and learning the knowledge of our areas, and suddenly we're getting boxes of food given to us. So not only has identity been stripped, but, you know, and now we're at a place where now we know that stuff has caused a lot of problems. Now we got to take life into our own hands and quit being victims and build these gardens, but we don't have the knowledge. We didn't even have, you know, once we figure out how to build gardens, now we got to learn about the soil, because now the mycorrhizae and the mycelium that once ran rampant through our soil that assisted with creating those things is no longer viable in so many areas as a result of the chemicals that we put, the uranium mines that are all around Navajo country, you know, the nuclear dump sites, you know, because America is famous for choosing places to dump their nuclear waste on reservations, on and near reservations. You know, so now we're dealing with issues that have impacted the pineal gland to such a degree that we're dealing with, you know, like such a disconnect. You know, it's just such a crazy disconnect. And to now go, what do we do? How do we do it now? No, they don't teach us how to eat. Nobody taught us about the way that food interacted on the body. We weren't even able to think about those things because we were busy surviving. And this is what, you know, this medicine man was telling me, you know, we're so busy surviving. I didn't, you know, all we could do when we finished praying all night for somebody and sitting in a sweat is we run to Denny's. And then they're loading up on all of these things, you know, pancakes and stuff, but they don't have time to think about anything else, much less grow a garden. So I feel that heart, you know, like, you know, especially when I hang out in my older daughter who's married in a part of a community, kind of a hippie community that are really into that, you know, they got it down, you know, they're going to eat right. It's all organic. It's this way, you know? And so I learned about the importance of that, and I get to do those things, but then to try to come back to my reservation and, you know, and switch that up, it's really challenging. So what I recognize is that spirituality can be impacted by our physical body becoming sick, but that spirituality is so intact, because when we're all physical on that other side, you know, sometimes we have to really rely on that spirituality to guide us and to help us, you know. Anyway, that's all I have to say like that. Thank you.
Another thing that's quite, you know, it's growing here as well, is this barter, which is very old Ireland, you know, way before the invasion of England here, where we just worked off a barter system. So if you're good at milking cows, and if I'm good at teaching people songs, then there's our exchange. So you give me the milk and I'll teach your family indigenous songs. And that, you know, that system of communicating is phenomenally powerful around inner well-being, you know, because again, we're all getting that value add feeling outside of this monetary system of I'm of value because I drive a big car, you know. As far as your reservation goes, you know, the barter is a good way of getting people involved in community. And you know, for you, Anna Laura, like I'm really feeling, you know, a longing, you know, and everybody is longing. It's what I'm seeing, me included, you know. There's a longing for family, and, you know, define family whatever way you want, but there is that longing whether it's let's turn the soil together, or let's go to a gig together, or let's build a Roman Empire together. It's the longing of this togetherness and this connectedness, this communityness. And I think, you know, when you were speaking, you know, I was feeling my heart. And I think it's small steps, you know, with your brother, like, you know, it's, you know, and it's really grounding all of these big words, or grounding these big ideas into practical, you know, real terms of happenings, you know, like how did you do that, brother, you know, or to the young fella, your niece or nephew, you know, how did this happen? How did this process happen? You know, can you teach me? And then you teach somebody, you know, that little ripple effect. Or, you know, in the like what we're doing here is in the comfort of our home, or on Squircle. So we now call this circle that us four here are having, it's Squircle because it's online. So it's squares, but yet we're feeling like we're in circle together. And, you know, maybe having a Squircle sharings, and then ground that into a physical sharing. Because the bottom line is what I feel in my body, connecting into this energetic feeling of this experience, is longing is everywhere. And I think this gentle invite for inclusion through gentle suggestion and continued gentle invitation builds momentum, and momentum builds numbers, and numbers build power. You know, power to change one way of doing things through disconnected oneness into another way of doing something that just is ripe and breeds contentment through all of the lovely words that we've, you know, that have popped up so far. We want it. This is clear. We just don't know how to get it, and it's the grounding of the simple steps. Stops the heroin addict, stops the depression, stops the anxiety, it all stops once we're feeling connected. And then it's how, like, you know, in your book there, Lisa, under community, like, I'd love to see, you know, bullets on, you know, grounding this, and your next big heading is grounding it. How do we actually make it happen? Because we all want it, you know, we've all wanted since day dot, you know. And, you know, it's, sorry, I'm just going to walk while I'm talking because the back door is just open here, but it's accepting each other, meeting in a,
You're cutting
like you
out.
said earlier, Lisa, in a state of disconnection.
Oh, there you go.
But we can't meet.
You cut out for a second while you were walking.
Oh, okay. I can't meet you in us achieving our goals if I have any taste of judgment or assumption around you, your life choices, your tone, your choice of words, your appearance. The minute I'm in a space of having an opinion on any of that stuff, energetically there is a disconnection between us. And that again stems back to what you were saying, Lisa, that, you know, the inner work has to be done. And the inner work can be done in community, where we're really peeling off our armor to accept where we're all at, that we all have different wants and needs and choices and preferences, and trying to build on that foundation, where the collective then leads the direction of what community is. Like, that is beautiful to me. And, you know, another part of me, and I think I said this to you, Lisa, last week, or to you, Anna Laura, is I feel like we're all like tearaway, rascal teenagers on a level. We're all like headless chickens running into brick walls. Like branches of all of us are like this. So, and I'm also a fundamental believer, tapping into what you said, Marilyn, is that we are all from source. We are all source. So we are all stemming branches from the one tree trunk. And the only way to heal a dysfunctional teenager, a dysfunctional heroin addict, a dysfunctional self is to show love, unjudgmental love, unjudgmental acceptance of all of the craziness that's going on in their world. Because any judgment is the craziness that's going on in our world, in my world. So, you know, community is that, in my opinion. It is just acceptance. Somebody doesn't show up to do the job they said they would do, then it's acceptance. Somebody shows up and bangs out a big reefer in the middle of a meeting, it's acceptance. Somebody shows up and they take over the whole meeting because they're falling apart at the seams, it's acceptance. You know, it's big stuff, but it's beautiful stuff. And it's transparency, you know, real transparency, talking that talk, talking about it openly. And yeah, thank you.
I think that's, you know, that's such a big deal, you know, that we are able to be in spaces, in community, whatever spaces that we're in, where we are not being judged, or where we're not feeling judged, and where people are not making assumptions about us. And at that, I mean, for me, that's been such a challenge, because I guess it's been my experience, or maybe my perception, that that's like everywhere I go, I just feel like I've been judged, you know, for my decisions, for my choices, and for who I am. And so that acceptance is yeah, it's huge. It's like, it's okay to be who I am. I'm okay being who I am. And do I really feel that, you know, and where do I feel that? And how do I feel that? And really being honored that way. Yeah, and the transparency is like, for the, I guess for those of us that haven't done that inner work yet, it's like, because we have to accept ourselves. We have to not judge ourselves. We have to not make assumptions about ourselves, right? So it's like, when I start reflecting that back within myself, then I can start to see and feel, you know, others accepting me, right? It's like, if I can stop judging myself and stop criticizing myself, then, and I can start to accept myself, then I will find the spaces where I'm not feeling judged by others. And I am fully accepted for who I am, regardless of all of whatever, you know, whatever imperfections I have.
Yeah, because we all have a lot of them. No, if you want to call it, you know. And if there wasn't such a freaking hierarchy in the imperfections world, you know, we would all be equal. If there wasn't such a, you know, oh, heroin addict, that's the worst imperfection. Really? You know, who's pointing the finger, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's just funny.
Yeah.
I used to think about, like the value structure, sometimes when we're talking or thinking about how to think about things, it's like, to come from a value structure that's linear. So, where all those constructs like judgment and, and self-worth and all of those things where they come in, that whole thought process undermines the basic understanding that each and every one of us are really important. It's like we occupy a space that nobody else can occupy. We have an opportunity to love and, be compassionate or do the things that we do best that nobody else can do. And we're going to touch hearts and we're going to make change in ways that nobody else could do that. Regardless of who we are, it's like, I think of some of the lessons that I learned, there's no competition. There's no room for competition in a new consciousness. Like as we expand into what the 5th, 6th, 7th dimension or whatever that is, I don't understand all that myself, but I hear it and I like it because they are descriptive of things that are happening, so as we expand our consciousness, we abandon the social constructs of judgment and even culture, even saying washu, like I love my language because it's an ancient language and it has a vibration that's close to spirit, I feel that. But all of us came from languages like that at one point, every single one of us. And now we have this universal language that's kind of limited in our ability to really get our meaning across. But we also possess that deeper inner sense of intuitive knowing, where we can do that with it. I don't remember where I was going with all of that, I'm just, I'm feeling like, that knowing that we are all critical, I used to like it as a kid, hearing people with those motivational speakers would say, I am important. I am the number one. And there's a song we sing in ceremony that's one of my favorites that I love. It's like, I am my beloved, and my beloved, it is me. And it's like, and then the understanding as a Native person that goes, and a community minded person that goes along with that my love for myself is also equates to the way and the depth that I can love others, so I can really care for myself and then, really love others, and I find that's true even with my daughters, as I stepped out of trying to be a good mom, as my kids are growing up and don't need me to mom them anymore, it's like what they really need me to do is support them, they really just need, because there's some aspect of a vibration that came from us, but they're not us. They're more than us. They're us plus, all those younger generations, the wisdom they carry is everything we already have as we think we're trying to teach them something, but they already know these things because it's in their very vibrational core of their body. And then the environment that they experience, that's what's new. So they're incorporating that right through all this. So it's just critical that we all engage that process of self-discovery and that we love ourselves and that we know that taking the time for ourselves and making choices to get some rest or change our, our eating or try another round of seeing if I can get regular exercise or, whatever those things are, that we continue that process and we continue to let it integrate into our lives and know that taking care of ourselves is ultimately taking care of the people that are around us. So
maybe that's another breakdown in your writings is maybe the knowingness. What is your knowingness? Because we each have that knowing of what's okay and what's not so okay. That when we question that, if we were to question that in ourselves every day, I think we'd be doing an awful lot less harm and a lot less isolating and fragmenting from this bubble if we were actually asking that.
of course, well,
Well, I do want to respect everybody's time, and we're getting near the 2-hour mark. I know, Marilyn, you want to share wellness wheel. Did you have a picture of it, or yeah, you can share. Did you want to share it on share screen? Okay. Let me give you ability to do that. So that we can close up the circle here in a few minutes.
Here we're looking to, in one of our dualities, we're trying to create a currency for honor of word, honor of self, which is quite, tribal for, well, it was very tribal here in Ireland. That was everything, our honor. There's a question in that as well, in your knowingness. Are you acting on your honor?
Yeah, I think that that's really interesting, because it's one of those things that seems like has disappeared. It's like, we
I
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah.
Is
Here's
that yours, Marilyn?
yeah, I wanted to share this. This came from the Tribal Met Echo Clinic, is the wellness wheel. And it's taking a look at the different regions and how important each region is. Like the ability to look at ourselves from spirit first, and our mind, our bodies, and community, and how we relate to others. How important that is in a sense of recovery. In the recovery in ourselves, or in the recoveries of ourselves, and then it's kind of like an assessment tool too, because ultimately we want to have all bases covered, because we want to acknowledge our spiritual self, and also our place in the spiritual world, from the within and around us, and above us and below us, in all 4, 5, 7 directions. We want to acknowledge those elements that support us, and then our mind is to know that we have a really powerful mind, and that we have to really take care of it, and to acknowledge our mind and how delicate it is, and to always take care of our mind, the way we think and what we see and all that. Then our bodies, to watch our bodies, to assess our bodies, and to work with our bodies day in and day out, to spend as much time with each region equally. And then the idea of community, just in relating to others around you, and maybe not around you, but beyond around you. Maybe people from Ireland, or people from Hawaii, or people from New York. You cannot find a community around you. That's what I really like about technology today, is that we can Zoom other people that aren't really near us, and be able to communicate and appreciate, the way we're meeting today. I appreciate all minds and all walks of lives, and the way that we came together today. I appreciate that, and that feeling of the sense of community helps me in this walk of life that I do on a daily basis. So I try to get online with many people every single day, whether to learn or to, they ask me stuff, I can share stuff, so to help them, or to help myself. In a way, when I help people, I also help myself. When I help others, do energy work or whatever, it's also helping me. We're like sharing spirit, and then we're also helping the community and the universe at the same time. So it's just not between me and the patient. So anytime I think that we're utilizing our gifts to help others, it's not just between the two, but it's beyond that, because we're also acknowledging the things that are around us to help this person. But then in the end, we're also helping ourselves too. So I like that cycle. You know, we're always in a cycle, and I like the cycle of life, and I like the sacredness that it brings. So, you know, I appreciate your sacredness and your mind, your body, spirit, and the community that we have created here.
I'm going to have to say goodbye because I'm on another call at 11 and I've got to do an opening prayer. So I'm going to have to hang up right now, but I just want to say thank you. I love you. So good to talk with you. Okay.
Thank you so much.
Love you.
Yeah, thank you so much. It's beautiful. Okay, love.
Bye, Lisa. She disappeared.
Your microphone is on.
I'll say, I think we'll just start to close. Well, I'm going to stop the recording here and just end with the wellness wheel that you shared, Marilyn. Thank you for sharing that. Just kind of bringing it all together and putting a picture on it. And then I guess before I stop the recording, I'll just say that we're going to meet again next month on the first Monday, which is April 4th. So April 4th at 9 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, we will meet again to talk about the next topic, which I think maybe is Earth, like talking about the Earth. And so thank you for anyone who watched and listened, because I am going to put this out through the nonprofit website so that others can listen to the conversation if they choose. So thank you to anyone that does listen, and thank you, Louise, for being here. Thank you, Marilyn. Thank you, Lisa. Appreciate all of you and this circle of sisters that we are creating here together. So I hope that next time we'll have another sister come and join the conversation and add and deepen to the conversation.